Welcome everyone to Dharma Podcast. Today we are here with Sandeep on a special day, the birthday of a Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi. He turned 75 today. And the whole idea of getting in the conversation with Sandeep is to discuss beyond the obvious markers, the transformation that he's brought about in what we proudly know as Bharat Varsha. And we'll cover that with Sandeep. Beyond the obvious markers of infrastructure, healthcare, the transformations are far more deep rooted and irreversible. And we'll get into each of these aspects in the conversation with Sandeep. So, welcome all, and let's wish our Prime Minister a happy birthday. Sandeep, let's get started with you. Namaste, Sandeep.
Namaste, Parag.
So, good to have you again. The whole idea is to discuss the significance of the transformation we've seen under Prime Minister Modi for 3 consecutive terms. Can we start perhaps on these lines?
Sure, Parag. So, at the outset, let me join you and the rest of the nation in wishing Prime Minister Modi a very, very happy birthday and wish him a long life and an even more successful tenure as perhaps the most transformational Prime Minister that India has ever had since it got independence from a millennia of alien, oppressive, exploitative rule. So this is the largest and the most all-encompassing backdrop in which to analyze Mr. Narendra Modi's legacy, and you've kind of covered most of it. But because we have to start somewhere, let's start with this. In the last decade, India has become completely unrecognizable, and it has become so unrecognizable that it actually feels unreal, although we are living in that unrecognizable India. You see the significance of this whole point, right? We now take for granted several things in our daily life that even just 15 years ago seemed to be in the realm of impossible. This is the biggest change. When you say all encompassing, it kind of covers all these domains. And what is even more significant is that things around us, life in general itself, seems to have changed so fast. 10 years is a very, very short duration by any measure. And in these 10 years, everything seems to have changed so fast without us even noticing, right? So we'll break down these things in no particular order. Like you've beautifully set the context for this discussion. So let's travel back in time, let's say 15 years back. As a random example, let's take a random example. Let's take a passenger train journey from Chennai to the northeast or Bangalore to the northeast. Back then, 15 years ago, it was natural, it was habitual to expect a week-long delay in train journeys, not the actual journey. The delay itself would be minimum of 1 week. All right. Today, what is the change that is that we see? Put a Google search for a random term like Chennai to Dimapur. The first result will be Chennai Dimapur flight. This is no ordinary transformation.
Absolutely.
All right. Then the same thing goes for other travel sectors. But there is one more on the subject of undoing things. There's a very, very important data point, a very observable past reality, a reality of the recent past that pretty much ate India from within. This is the tribe, the former tribe of the hunter-gatherers, the vultures of political news who were once ubiquitous. They were omnipresent, not just in Delhi but throughout India. Some of the members of this tribe of news hunter-gatherers describe themselves as news vultures. A self-confessed such news vulture was Ease, who also happens to be your very, very close friend, Mr. Rajdeep Sardesai. But what has happened in the last 10 years is that they now fondly long for even 1 milli-inch, 1 millimeter of a scam infested headline, but only to discover, to their disappointment, that a new normal has replaced those glory old days in which they could literally get away with murder. All right? Because, and this is a most important transformation that has happened under Mr. Modi, because the scam fountain of the last 75 years has completely dried up in just 1 decade. Yeah, you had a question, Parag.
No, so absolutely significant. The scam as a word doesn't exist. In fact, it's recovery from other parties.
Exactly.
No,
See, that's what I said. No, all this has happened in front of our own eyes.
which we now take for granted.
Yeah, which we now take for granted, right? So,
Yeah, I was tempted to respond to the media, but the news vultures, like you rightly call them. I'm saying their marginalization and irrelevance is one reason alone for which me and millions would vote for him again and again.
Precisely. Fantastic point. And guess which is the other machinery that was attached at the hip of this corrupt legacy media. It is the mammoth bureaucratic apparatus, and the kind of transformation that Mr. Modi's regime has done, especially in the bureaucratic machinery. Although it is not difficult, it is not easy to do these changes overnight in the bureaucracy, because it is bureaucracy that the British has built. It's not easy. But one significant change happened just last month. So we were treated to quite a public spectacle in which a furious lobby of IAS officers wrote a letter of protest to the PMO, to the Prime Minister rather. And what was the object of their protest? It was a protest against the open office plan in the new Kartavya Bhavan building. All right. It became instantly viral on Twitter. I'm sure you followed that news. But what is the source of their fury against this new open office plan in the new Kartavya Bhavan building? The source of their fury was the complete and utter deprivation of the cushy old order, which included, sprawling air-conditioned private offices equipped with private luxurious toilets and cushions and separate lounges to take naps during working hours. And, if you've been to these bureaucratic offices in Delhi in the old days, even a section officer, he had his own personal fiefdom with a largish private cabin with an attached bathroom. And so all these have been, Mr. Modi has deprived them of all these perks, basically. Perks is an understatement, but yeah, luxuries. So in the letter's wording that the IAS lobby wrote to PM Modi, their reasoning for having these private fiefdoms was that all these perks of office, these large private cabins, they facilitated our critical thinking and confidentiality. Dude, you're being paid by the Indian taxpayer not to do critical thinking and maintain some confidentiality, but to serve the people. All right.
And the outcome of critical thinking is severely missing for the last 50 years.
We know.
So what critical thinking is questionable.
This whole the legacy of this critical thinking is more than 7 decades. So we know where that has led the country down to. But what's even worse for these legacy IAS lobby is the very nomenclature of the new building. Kartavya Bhavan, meaning the office of duty or the building of duty.
Towards the people of India.
The very nomenclature Kartavya Bhavan, it literally shatters the vestiges of what these legacy buildings really symbolized. All these legacy buildings were monuments of blood-soaked, blood-sucking and heartless imperialism of an alien colonial plunderer. Absolutely. All right. This is what they had inherited. So Rajpath has now become Kartavya Path. The the road of duty and central secretariat has been renamed as Kartavya Bhavan. In other words, from high handedness to duty consciousness, from imperialism to service. In fact, the bedrock of the Indian civilization and the Indian work ethic is dharma. One meaning of dharma is also kartavya or duty or karma.
Significant, significant.
So, like I said, even here, India has become unrecognizable over the last decade. Make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
And I gave these two examples, these specific examples for a reason, just to show that these are small, tiny slices of the comprehensive national transformation that Mr. Modi has brought in. But with due credit to Mr. Modi, this process was actually started by the late great Prime Minister, Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And, comparatively speaking, without lowering the legacy of neither Prime Minister, of either Prime Minister, comparatively speaking, Mr. Vajpayee had a much tougher going during his tenure. But within just 6 years of his tenure, what Vajpayee seeded was a series of far-sighted moves. For example, the new telecom policy. If Jio has become a phenomenon that has pretty much penetrated all corners of India, it began with the seeds of Mr. Vajpayee's new telecom policy. And then the golden quadrilateral. Look at the irony, look at the cruelty of the 7-decade Congress regime, Parag, that we had to wait for 55 years to get something as basic as a 4-lane highway,
Absolutely.
national highway. This man did it in less than 6 years. Then this was also followed by several reforms in banking and investment and charting an innovative foreign policy. But the fact that Mr. Vajpayee succeeded in all these policies is more remarkable. Why? Because he operated in a cannibalistic era of coalitions. He had people like Mamata Banerjee and DMK back then.
Absolute talent.
Right? I mean, it's no mean achievement by Mr. Vajpayee. And it was an era of instability, the coalition era, in which all parties except the BJP had a truly national vision. Show me one party in all these coalition run governments which actually had a vision for India as a whole. Nobody. All right. So Mr. Vajpayee operated in this kind of a environment. But despite all these admirable successes, all that Mr. Vajpayee could do was to merely change the paint of the inherited imperialistic British apparatus, but he left its structure and its foundations untouched. Right? And what Mr. Modi has done is that he not only altered this imperialistic colonial structure, but he demolished it and excavated the very foundations that sustained this imperialism after India allegedly became independent. And once he had excavated this legacy structure, even literally, what does Central Vista mean, sir?
Yeah, absolutely.
What does it symbolize? Excavation and a new start. What he did was that when he excavated this old structure, he showed the country the nature of the rot and the quiet buried skeletons underneath these imperialistic structures.
So, in that sense, the contrast between Vajpayee and Modi is
It's
significant.
remarkable. It's significant, truly significant. Now, two pronounced pointers to this rot, Congress inherited British rot, two definitive pointers. One, a highly recalcitrant bureaucracy and a completely unaccountable judiciary. Both these institutions had been captured and supported by the same vast and entrenched, deep-rooted Congress ecosystem. Congress and communist ecosystem operating from behind the scenes. And so, what this shows from an overall historical perspective is that every political regime which has a long innings, it gives birth to a loyal elite comprising courtiers and flatterers, which is as noble or as corrupt or as depraved as its political masters. That's all. So you have to look at these things from these perspectives. So, for example, Bhoja Raja, who ruled for 50 years, and Krishnadevaraya, who ruled for about 21 years, their elite included philosophers, saints, bhaktas, and poets. What exactly is the character of the Congress elite? We all know the answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
And
which is why Congress finds itself in the pit that it is in right now. Yeah, you had
No,
a
and there also, I'm just taking, since you cited history, if you look at the conscious effort to elevate the upper house, which is the house of wisdom.
Mm.
For example, we spoke about it in one of the conversations, getting Meenakshi Jain into it.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
spoke about
yeah.
philosophers, poets.
Yes, yes.
So that is the
Yeah.
quality you need in the upper house of wisdom.
Precisely.
That also seems to be
Yeah,
an area of
it's happening
transformation.
slowly.
It's happening
These things-
slowly, yeah.
Because destruction hardly takes any time,
Yeah.
sir. You get a JCB, it's all over in less than 1 hour, right? But rebuilding the thing takes a long time.
Okay.
Anyway, so in many ways, Mr. Modi has brilliantly learned some invaluable lessons from the prime ministership of Mr. Vajpayee. And one major lesson that he seems to have learned was the realization of the inevitability of an absolute majority, preferably in both houses. All right. And the transformation that he has brought in just 1 decade is one of the direct outcomes of this learning. Remember, sir, look at another contrast from this perspective. The decade prior to Mr. Narendra Modi, 2004 to 2014, the worst ever, the most fatal decade to Hindu civilization. That decade not only undid all the good work of Mr. Vajpayee, but it opened India up to every secessionist and every nation wrecker who wanted India to remain a third world country, poor, hungry, squalid, or to break it up into pieces. This is what Mr. Modi had inherited, and if the era of following Rajiv Gandhi was defined by chaos, the Narendra Modi era exemplifies stability. Right?
Absolutely.
So, you spoke about transformation in your opening remarks. Transformation is a continuous process. It is first lived and then it is analyzed in hindsight. And when you again look at transformation, the nature of transformation across countries, across timelines, across cultures, in the infinite canvas of time, it also shows us that transformation is cyclical. Okay? For example, we never realized when or how the UPI revolution occurred.
Which we just take for granted now.
We
It's like
take
a way of
for
life.
granted, sir.
It's a
We
way of life.
take for granted. So, what all happened as what were the byproducts of UPI revolution? Earlier, you had to just use the scan code. Now, a small but extremely significant transformation within UPI has occurred. Even that also we didn't notice. One day we woke up and, okay, once the transaction is completed successfully, you got an audio message. Why was the need felt to have this audio message? Because illiterate people in villages, even street vendors, they could not fully
Read.
figure out whether the money was actually credited. So what best way than to hear the message aloud? So these are extraordinary changes, sir.
It shows such a deep understanding of India.
Exactly. And no Babu, no bureaucrat, no IAS officer with a large private office space
And
did
critical
this.
thinking. And critical
Thinking did this. It was done by a handful of creative, passionate people,
Grounded people.
grounded people who did this. All right. We didn't notice how the Modi government weeded out all the tribe of seedy brokers who had held India's defense hostage at the altar of personal profiteering.
You just imagine.
We never, Congress boasts that it got freedom to India and, did all these miraculous things for the longest time continuously. But didn't it occur that a nation's unity, integrity, sovereignty needs indigenous defense preparedness? Why was it blocked? By whom? Same Congress ecosystem.
And there are multiple scams at their doorstep in the defense areas.
Yeah, Augusta West and that's one area which which has skeletons. I don't know how many millions of skeletons are there, but anyway. Next, we rarely pause and appreciate the enormity of the fact that since 2014, there have been no jihadi attacks on Indian soil, on mainland India.
Absolutely significant accomplishment.
All right,
not a single one.
You take this for granted. Earlier, you used to take jihadi attacks for granted.
We've escaped these attacks as civilians. Yeah. In Delhi,
there was one jihadi attack on Indian soil once every 6 weeks. Varanasi, Akshardham, near
Pune, Hyderabad,
Bangalore, ISC shooting.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yes, absolutely.
Zero. Then we do occasionally celebrate a big headline that tells us that Maoist terror has been almost exterminated. Remember that we did a podcast on that thing, Operation Kagar. Nor do we pause to think and actually marvel at how, after what seems to be an eon, fully functional schools are operating in Gadchiroli, which was one of the nerve centers of Maoist terror. Unthinkable, sir. Right? And just as, as recent as this morning, the Maoist leadership has agreed to something, what it calls a ceasefire.
And give up arms. Yeah,
right. Ceasefire is not enough. They have to surrender. Spend jail time or undergo life imprisonment or whatever sentence. So look at the sweep of changes. Then this is really good. We learned that the dreaded Article 370 was abolished only when the matter was introduced in the parliament. The secrecy, the planning, the strategizing. On that scale, nobody knew, sir. All right? And even worse, the Congress, which was responsible, which was the greatest beneficiary of Article 370, openly confessed in Parliament, in the words of Shri Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, who said that this is an international issue. He is a leader of a party, opposition leader of India's Lok Sabha. That guy, leader of a party who ruled India continuously for 3.5 decades. This man, he calls an Indian internal matter as an international matter.
Obviously, Nehru's legacy.
And the Modi government has undone this so beautifully. Then, this is awesome. We, in front of our own eyes, Parag, we witness the thorough cleansing of public discourse after it was freed from the clutches of a legacy journalistic tribe, which was highly notable for extorting businessmen, fixing ministries, blackmailing bureaucrats, intimidating chief ministers, and sending legal notices to anybody who questioned its reporting ethics.
Like I said, this reason is good enough for millions to vote for him again and again.
Yes. All right. And these are the same people who are now, who have now invented something called a Godi media. Their shamelessness is bottomless. Parag. Also, we do not fully fathom the manner in which Mr. Modi's government has transformed Pakistan into an absolute pariah, an untouchable, even within the Muslim community, even within the community of Muslim nations in the world.
Is that significant, right? Significant. Not one
Muslim nation stands by Pakistan. Sir.
Even during an operation after Sindoor.
Yeah. Nobody supported.
There was no Ummah supporting.
Okay. And we were also caught by surprise in the manner at which India stared down China at Galwan.
Absolutely.
Okay? And finally, we are yet to grasp the secret of how the United States has been forced to take India seriously to the point of frustration. So that
As
flip
as his
in
wish to.
sir, in just 2 weeks, count the number of flip flops that Donald Trump has done with respect to India. The same Peter Navarro who shot off his mouth abusing Brahmins. All right, I'll come to that in a bit.
Yeah.
Is now calling Mr. Modi as my dear friend or something, as a great guy, or the usual
the usual
homily.
English.
So these are not ordinary changes, and remember that Mr. Modi now is still in the infancy of his third consecutive term.
And he
if-
keeps saying that
and
there's so
if-
much work to be done.
And if anything, he seems to have grown stronger despite a reduced Lok Sabha majority. Who even talks about that, sir?
Decisions have been absolutely, the pace has just picked up rapidly.
Right? So, what drives this man? Ambition, audacity, and scale. All these
Selfless ambition.
Yeah, all these things are actually visible, they're tangible. You can almost touch and hold these qualities in every transformation that Mr. Modi has brought, and the proof is in the pudding. For example, DBT, direct bank transfer, demonetization, GST, and a completely unapologetic India first foreign policy. These are just some of the most pronounced transformations that Mr. Modi has done, and all of these are irreversible. Now, show me a single opposition party which will risk condemning direct cash transfer without incurring serious damage to its own political survival. Two, the discussion about GST ever since it was introduced is not that it should be reversed, but only about its nuances. Okay. And the Congress party's sustained abandonment of India's national interest to the point of treachery. That is the single most reason for why it finds itself in this abyss, which it can't climb out of. So, a relentless pursuit of national vision, a larger than life element, a kind of epic quality underscores all these ambitious projects and transformations of Mr. Modi, and especially in his first term. Narendra Modi simply focused on the basics. No grandeur, nothing. Fix the basics. As simple as that. And he still continues to focus on the basics. Simple things like scaling the economy through wealth creation at the level of the individual citizen, and creating national assets on the macro level. See, this was the exact philosophy of Sir M. Vishweshwaraya.
Okay.
He emphasized, you must read his semi-professional autobiography, which book is called Memoirs of My Working Life. Extraordinary vision. So, he's picked up all these things. And there Mr. Vishweshwaraya repeatedly emphasizes on creating national assets, which provide long-term economic security. And they are the best vehicles for employment creation and wealth creation. Anyway, so by emphasizing on these basics, to put it in layman's language, Mr. Modi's economic transformations reaffirms an eternal truth, a very simple truth, straightforward truth. Every door automatically opens for a rich man without him asking for it. This is why, Mr. Trump and Navarro and the rest of his cabinet of jokers, they keep doing these flip-flops.
I think one quality or trait of his, which I think perhaps nobody else has on the world stage, is the ability to maintain strategic silence.
Absolutely.
I think it itself has undone a lot of problems.
Absolutely.
Trump is an example.
Yeah. And they poles apart. Modi and Trump are poles apart.
Yeah, just by his strategic silence post his tariff threat.
That guy shoots off his mouth.
Yeah, I know. And by him not responding at all.
At all, yeah.
You look at how it has panned out now.
Absolutely. A great point. And in fact, a stubborn refusal to address and fix these basics in India for about 7 decades is a source of most of India's problems. Basics are infrastructure, roads, water, sanitation, healthcare, education, things like that. Our primary education has been in doldrums. It's worsened over ever since Congress took power from British. Education is quite extraordinary in British era anyway. So from this perspective, Modi is simply engaged in the work of national reconstruction. This national reconstruction had to actually begin in 1947, but it was wildly derailed and destroyed by a new elite whose only qualification was trading in patriotism. The initial leadership of top Congress leaders, apart from some stellar exceptions like Sardar Patel and Rajgopalachari and the rest of them, the rest of his cabinet, these ordinary MPs, their only qualification was to wear this badge of freedom fighter, whether they had actually fought or not. So this is called trading in patriotism. And in fact, this great cartoonist and satirist, Shankar, used to publish his famous Shankar's Weekly. There is a memorable cartoon that he had drawn. It shows a husband and wife hailing from Lutyens, Delhi's perfume elite. This couple, husband and wife, are cringing before Prime Minister Nawab Nehru. The caption under the cartoon reads as follows. The husband tells the Prime Minister, "Well, Panditji, if you can't spare us an ambassadorship, maybe you can give us some extra petrol coupons." I think further commentary on this is unnecessary. So, like I said, India had to wait for Mr. Vajpayee to get a 4-lane national highway. And today, there are still a couple of generations that are alive which remembers something called those notorious octroi gates which were infesting our highways. Remember that?
Yes, yes. Of course.
They were so notorious that it was actually a antiquated, outdated economic menace which prompted a stalwart like Nani Palkhiwala to write a very ferocious essay. Read it. It's there in a compilation of his essays called We the People.
Yeah, I think I have.
So I think you must have read that. And now, from that era of octroi cancer, we have two generations which assume that our highways were always like this.
Exactly. And you look at 2 generations down the line, they wouldn't even know what we lived with.
Precisely.
They'll think this is a normal.
Not lived with, lived through.
Lived through, yeah.
The same truth about highways applies to a prolonged era of even more prolonged power cuts. 10 hours, 12 hours. Generators and UPS, I think India is the largest market for that, for a reason.
And now we have grid-based electricity exchanges, surplus.
Yeah, precisely. And if these are not sweeping reforms, what else can we call them? The key point to note in all these areas, Parag, for the longest time since India has been ruled by Congress, it never showed any inclination for national reconstruction, all-encompassing rebuilding of a very ancient and profound civilization that had been repeatedly battered. Instead, what it did, Congress, was to, not Congress, but one dynasty, the Nehru dynasty, what it wanted was to enjoy power forever. See, Nawab Nehru, during in a pre-independence day, learned the worst traits of British imperialistic rule. And he pretty much inflicted the same thing. All his dreams of socialistic commanding heights of economy and dams and this and that and all those public sector industries, they were all counterproductive, to put it mildly. So when and the Congress was for the longest time never used to losing power. So what it did progressively after Indira Gandhi lost the elections following the emergency, what it progressively did was to to retain perpetual power was to join forces with all kinds of anti-national elements, both operating within India and abroad.
Outside.
So, what began as a what began as a quest for retaining power eternally, slowly transformed into treason and treachery, which is exemplified by Mr. Rahul Gandhi now.
Absolutely. He's
Right. So, we'll come to that in a bit. And so, as a result of repeatedly losing power, all right, see, 2004 elections, both the Congress and the BJP lost power. It was just the single largest majority party. It was still in a coalition government. So in 2004, when a new coalition came, Congress didn't have absolute majority in the House, in the Lok Sabha. It was also in coalition. That coalition was formed to deliberately keep the BJP out of power. Because given one more term, all these golden quadrilaterals, the rest of the things,
results would have.
India would have, been in the position back then as it is now, as an economic powerhouse. This is why the Congress deliberately and its allies deliberately kept BJP out of power. What was the electoral difference tally between Congress and BJP? BJP got 138. Congress got 147. What's the difference? 8 seats.
No ideological glue. Just keep BJP
Nothing.
at par.
That's it. All right. So the key point out here is that the Congress and all its friends, allies, alleged allies, it regards Mr. Narendra Modi as an enemy to be vanquished rather than as a partner working for the interest of the same country that they are also citizens of. Except the fact that Mr. Modi belongs to a different political formation. And this personal vendetta, this personal enmity against Mr. Modi clearly showed itself in the two-term UPA regime. All the unfinished stretches of Golden Quadrilateral were deliberately halted for one entire decade. Roads dug up,
See, imagine
diversions.
So let the citizens be damned.
Yeah.
But we will score up points so that we are in power.
Correct. Dug up, diversions. No, all work halted. Why? Because they did not want Mr. Vajpayee's fame to fly higher than that of Sonia Gandhi or the dynasty scion, Mr. Rahul Gandhi. So this was the most, this kind of unfinished highway work was the tangible manifestation of this personal enemy of the Congress. In a parallel development, every reform, every policy matter that NDA 1 had planned, which was in the works, was either reversed or scrapped. Rahul Gandhi's rhetoric and his street level activism over the last decade not only smacks of personal vengeance against Narendra Modi, but it threatens to undo India itself.
Absolutely.
He is an extremely dangerous man.
So the question is, how long will this treason treachery be put up with? Sorry, I had to bring this up.
I have no clue.
That's the frustration.
I have no clue. It is clearly a frustrating point. Absolutely. Because his global far left, who are his friends, sir? All this dangerous global far left elements and his other alleged political parties, they do not pose an ordinary threat to India's unity and sovereignty. We need to understand this as the citizens of India. And you know what? It is not restricted only to Rahul Gandhi. At the pan-India level, he is the most visible face of this secessionist tendencies. You come to the level of states. The same divisive and breaking India script is also being played out, most notably in Tamil Nadu and Kerala.
Yes.
Ever since the DMK came back to power, it has revived the old Dravidian separatist narrative, and this time it has elevated it to truly sinister levels. Over the last 4 decades since of DMK's rule, a very powerful faction of its ideologues, it has normalized something called an invasion of the Vadakkans in the public discourse of Tamil Nadu. The term Vadakkan is a derogatory reference to North Indians.
Ah, okay.
And in this Dravidian mythology, Vadakkans
Hmm.
are all
Hmm.
known as Aryas or Brahmins.
Okay.
Vada means, in Tamil, Vada means north. And when you come to Kerala, that showcases an entirely different and an even more dangerous story altogether. So we'll talk about it in some other episode. So if you take this point, look at this point from an overall perspective,
Hmm.
all of this divisive narrative is a extremely shameful commentary on this breed of legacy Indian political class. As long as this legacy Indian political class survives, Mr. Modi will and all nationalist elements will find it extremely hard to take this transformation to the next level, because every 100 steps that every 10 steps that Mr. Modi takes in the right direction, these divisive elements will pull India down by 1,000 steps, because they have such a deep rooted and entrenched ecosystem. It's an uphill battle actually. Now juxtapose this point, this whole dragging down point, with Mr. Donald Trump's praise for Modi's obsession for making India great again. Remember that?
Yeah.
This guy, see, every conversation about from this guy is only about making India great. It's only centered, is a great patriot. This is what he said, Donald Trump. When a guy like Donald Trump he doesn't praise anybody, right? When he praises Mr. Modi's obsession for making India great again, a logical question arises, Parag. Why are Modi's Indian opponents unable to see what an American president sees?
For the matter, other world leaders too.
Absolutely. Which now brings us to another contrast. The late P.V. Narasimha Rao. He is widely and deservedly credited as being a transformational prime minister, which is true. We have to give him that credit. And he was indeed better than all the prime ministers of the Nehru dynasty combined. And his fame rests on the game-changing economic reforms that he unleashed. To put it in simple language, it lies in his undoing of Nawab Nehru's moth-eaten and rotten socialist legacy. But history also shows that Narasimha Rao's reforms were actually the outcome of foreign pressure.
It is under duress.
IMF and
it was
World
under
Bank
duress, yeah.
under duress. Without this foreign pressure, it is doubtful whether Narasimha Rao's own party would have even allowed him to pursue this course. Right? But ever since Mr. Modi made his bid for Prime Minister in 2013, remember those days? His tenure and the content of his promised transformation has been consistent in both promise and delivery. The proof is in the pudding.
And that's exactly the promise of a brand. Delivers, it grows. Delivers, it grows.
Correct. So, and this transformation, this promise of transformation was entirely the own vision, an original vision of Mr. Modi, unlike that of Narasimha Rao, who was forced to make transformations. And another dimension of Mr. Modi's promise and delivery of transformation was a highly vocal and a highly unapologetic declaration that he would end the old ways of hunting for votes by creating schisms within the society, secularism, corruption, pimping,
and crutches.
cowardice, and communism, in that order. So Modi's new charter had really it was based on very simple premises. The first is a recovery of India's civilizational strength, which was deliberately left to lie dormant, and it was allowed to decay for 7 decades. This civilizational strength, plus Modi's demonstrated success record as the 3-term Chief Minister of Gujarat. Without this credentials as Gujarat's CM, who had done wonders for the state, I doubt his message, transformational message, would would have resonated so powerfully so as to give him an absolute majority in the Lok Sabha. Right? So, like, since you're fond of quoting business analogy, you first demonstrate and then your investors and customers will come to you. This is what he has done.
Absolutely.
Simple. So, till date, the most vicious and venomous denouncers of Narendra Modi, they denounce him precisely for this reason. The reason being Modi's candid projection of India's civilizational strength and his willingness to deploy it both at home and abroad.
I think the reason, the purpose of having this conversation with you, some of the obvious markers are known. But this exactly, the civilizational strength or resurrection is, I think, if you could just expand on it for a minute more.
Yeah, which brings us to another contrast, which again goes back to Nawab Nehru's clan. Nawab Nehru's clan and its extended political darbar and all the chamchas and the courtiers and the spittoon bearers and the pimps and the fixers, that whole coterie, that whole darbar, it had created 4 generations of a surreal specimen, of an unreal creature, but which was unfortunately all too real. This surreal creature was endowed with 2 defining traits. Trait number one was cowardice and inferiority complex vis-a-vis the white skin. Nothing else, Parag, nothing else explains the only objection from Nawab Nehru to see Rajagopalachari's elevation as independent India's first Governor General. The reason Nehru opposed Rajaji's elevation as Governor General was this. Rajaji wore a dhoti and he followed Hindu social etiquette. This is why he is disqualified for becoming India's Governor General.
Servility, right?
Absolute servility. The second trait of this Congress Darbari class was this: opportunism and characterlessness.
Yeah, well, these are words, it's really horrendous to hear them.
This specimen naturally finds any display of strength completely unnerving, which is why it regards tamashas like Aman Ki Asha as the most courageous response to a Pakistani terror attack.
Oh, thank God, that gravy train has ended.
Remember?
Yeah, absolutely. Another reason to vote for him all the time.
We are reminded of William Faulkner, great American novelist. He once memorably said, it's a great insight, he says that the discovery of the true strength that lies within us also inspires the greatest fear, which explains this servile and characterless specimen called Congress Darbar. Why such a Darbar was created? Because its Nawab himself was one such specimen. He was a leader, the master, the champion of that specimen. So both of these traits still guide every opposition to genuine reform, and it drags down every effort which ensures that India gets respect that it deserves on the global stage. Parag, not too many people know the kind of financial muscle that Indians command abroad. Who owns the Jaguar brand, sir?
Absolutely.
Tata. Who is Lakshmi Mittal? No,
Arcelor.
Our business footprint, a global footprint of our business
Arcelor,
houses, it's incredible. I don't think any other country has this kind of clout. But you want to condemn them? You want to extort money from them? You want to drag them down? Why? For being successful? Like I said, these people, this Congress specimen is unnerved by strength and achievement.
Of your own.
Right? Drag them down, abuse them, slander them. If you can't, if you climb up and become successful, I will assemble 100 of my chamchas and make sure that I will drag you down to my level.
Correct. As long as we collectively rot, it is fine.
You do this on the national scale and this is what you get. All right. So at the root of all denunciation of Modi and even Mr. Vajpayee, the ND, what was the Congress slogan against BJP in 2004 elections? India is not shining.
Imagine the joy.
Imagine the joy. This is not joy, da. This is perversity.
No, that's what I meant. Perverse
Depravity.
joy to call out that India is not succeeding.
Yeah,
In fact, Modi called this out in the parliament.
precisely.
I can understand you have a problem with me. But why would you have a problem with Make in India?
Make India.
Don't,
Exactly.
He said that on the floor of the
Exactly.
house.
Like I said, fear of success, intolerance. This is intolerance. So, and after the dark decade of 2004 and 2014, Mr. Modi, what he's done is he has clearly infused a greater level of confidence, and India is a much, much, much bigger and stronger and a more vibrant economy than it was when Mr. Vajpayee left office in 2004. There are no two words about this.
Yeah, from fragile 5 to the 4th largest.
Correct. Back then, the Congress and its buddies, through a series of backroom deals, succeeded in keeping the BJP out of power. And like I said, it reversed all the economic gains which Mr. Vajpayee had done. And this is putting it mildly. Now, cut to today, very few people realize the kind of global clout, even political clout, that India wields under Modi's leadership. There is a vast international and Indian cabal that ensures that people are not aware of our global clout by deliberately engineering chaos on social media and on the ground.
But this is clearly where I think the information warfare game has to be upped from our side.
Yeah, it has to be up. There are no two ways about it. And this chaos is a calculated attempt to bury the reality of India's ascent, and it is not new. Engineering this chaos is not new. It is only the latest avatar of the old Congress and communist screenplay, which includes the following: a shrill and relentless dissemination of poverty porn, all this myths about women's safety, Hindu terror, tribal oppression, injustice to farmers, and so on. But this time around, a new lethal dimension has been added to this engineered chaos, which is this: unpredictable, random, but regular eruptions of street violence, which leads to a situation of quasi-anarchy. What they want to do through all this is to ensure that global headlines of news outlets
have a negative part
have
about
only
India.
a negative impression about India. And a majority of these disruptions on Indian soil are orchestrated abroad by people like George Soros and his son, and
his minions who are
and
lapping it up here.
they are implemented by their Indian agents with the ultimate goal of regime change. No doubt. And it seems to be very easy in India because, like I always say, India is the only country in the world that has the maximum number of traitors per square foot.
Sorry, I'm laughing, but it's a serious accusation.
It's a reality. And this kind of relentless attack and activism is also the surest proof of the global clout that India has acquired. Otherwise,
why would somebody bother?
No. Otherwise, if India had not acquired global clout, Congress would still be in power.
Yeah. And why would these attacks take place?
See this. So, but an even more definitive proof came in the form of Mr. Peter Navarro. Remember?
Yeah, of course.
What he said, and I quote him.
He's forgettable though.
Yeah. I quote him: I would simply say to the Indian people, please understand what is going on here. You have got Brahmins profiteering at the expense of the Indian people. We need that to stop. So, here is the one-point formula to analyze all such statements coming from Western leaders and Western media. This Brahmin abuse. It is also Navarro's statement is also the most recent reaffirmation of an infallible truth of colonial history of the West. Every anti-India rhetoric begins with a veneer of sophistication and ends in Brahmin bashing.
Even there.
That's it. Believing that Peter Navarro actually knows anything at all about Brahmins, let alone about India, believing that Peter Navarro knows anything about Brahmins, it constitutes a revolt against reason. Okay? Navarro is merely parroting the spurious thesis which was first concocted by colonial European Christian missionaries, which was further embellished and masala was added by a wide spectrum of deracinated Hindus and parroted by Marxist goons. Okay, but the fact that Navarro felt compelled to utter that rhetoric against Brahmins shows the unease of the Trump administration which regards to Narendra Modi.
And it also
It doesn't know how to deal with this man. Yeah.
And to your point a little while ago, it also, the script, the term Brahmins coming into Navarro script is clearly the traitors for square foot here have collaborated with him. Sir, like, there's no way he would have known that otherwise.
Sir, when was the last time in the last 100 years that any leader from the United States has uttered anything about Brahmins?
Exactly. So these traitors for square foot, and we know.
Yeah, they fed him.
They fed him.
They fed him this injection. Simple. Now to come to your point about Modi's grasp of projection of India's civilizational strength. It is because he knows, he understands, and he has internalized, he has realized the full power of India's civilization strength is at the root of India's reassertion of self-confidence. Okay. Now, Navarro's statement, which specifically targets Brahmins, it also betrays the fact that the rest of the world views India as a Hindu country, notwithstanding ideological or political sophistry.
So this is significant, right?
It wasn't a coincidence that Mr. Modi, in his very first term, in the first year of his first term, he got the world community to declare June 26th as International Yoga Day.
And adopted by what, 160 countries?
Yeah. It was this World Yoga Day was a springboard of sorts to steadily recover and reclaim Bharatavarsha's spiritual and cultural footprints spread across the world from times immemorial. Okay. Let me give you a couple of data points. In 2018, Narendra Modi visited a 125-year-old Shiva temple in Muscat.
Yes, it was all over the news. Yes.
It reminds us of 3 centuries of Hindu mercantile dominance in the Persian Gulf. This dominance was led by the mercantile community hailing primarily from the Sindhi and the Kachi Bhatiyas and Marwadis, all on the Arabian coast.
And again goes back to your point about the fact our relationships with the Muslim countries.
Yes.
That this was allowed.
Yes.
In full glory.
Yes. And it also reminds us of the now forgotten Govindaraja temple, which was built by the Pushtimargi sects. Pushtimargi sects are the followers of Vallabhacharya's teachings. Sant Vallabhacharya, which is a marga dedicated to the worship of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. So the Pushtimargi sect, it was very thriving in the Persian Gulf. They had built a Govindaraja temple. One Govindaraja temple or Krishna temple, one branch of this temple is present in Adelaide even today, Australia.
Oh, is that so? Okay.
Yes. So, only a prime minister who knows these civilizational and cultural history can do this. And that apart, this same recovery of our spiritual cultural heritage in different parts of the world, it holds true for the immemorial cultural bond that India has again forged with all the countries in Brihad Bharata, what is incorrectly known as Southeast Asia. Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, all places. This apart, we also have a very thriving Hindu community in Suriname, Fiji, and Maldives. Maldives, the word is a corruption of the original term Maladvipa, or the garland of islands. I don't want to disclose personal things, but since we are celebrating the extraordinary transformational decade of an extraordinary prime minister, I will have to mention one incident, a meeting with Mr. Narendra Modi many years ago. In that meeting, he gave a very memorable answer to a question related to the related to a very core character of the Hindu culture, of the Sanatana culture and civilization. He compared our civilization and culture to a Krishnajina or a mat on which sadhus even today sit and meditate. They do tapasya on that mat. It is a coarse mat, a rough and coarse mat with two edges on either side. So the sadhu sits in the center. So the edges, both edges, are held down by his weight, by his body weight. So if you forcibly try to hold down one edge, the other edge, opposite edge, springs up. And if you want to hold down that, you have to let go of this edge. So this will also spring up with redoubled force. So he compared the healing, the capacity for renewal and civilizational rejuvenation of Sanatana Dharma to this mat. It's a very layered understanding and grasp of Hindu Dharma and Hindu civilization. And the timeless history of Sanatana culture and civilization shows precisely this fact, this analogy that every invader, every vandal, every world conqueror who tried to destroy Sanatana Dharma eventually ended up destroying himself. Alexander, Muhammad bin Qasim, Mahmud Ghazni, all these fellows. What was their ultimate legacy? It was one of destruction and misery. Yes?
And actually, I don't know, it just triggers the thought. All those who have opposed Modi mindlessly
Have been destroyed.
have been destroyed.
Yeah. True wisdom, when you want to approach, understand, or learn Sanatana Dharma, true wisdom will tell you that cultivating a sense of balance and equanimity by sitting in the center of the mat, preferably engaged in penance, is the answer or is the antidote to your hatred of the most profound spiritual civilization that human genius has ever built. We also detect this philosophical understanding in most of Narendra Modi's cultural and spiritual initiatives, which includes but is not limited to the rebuilding of the Ram Mandir in Ayodhya, the redevelopment of Mahakal corridor in Ujjain, the Kashi corridor, and several other seen, unseen, visible, and invisible initiatives in the cultural realm. And this also does not include the manner in which the Modi government has facilitated hundreds of initiatives and endeavors at bringing the Hindu narrative back to where it belongs, in the hands of the Hindu community. So, the reality of the last 7 decades shows us that Hindu politicians who espouse secularism have proven to be the greatest betrayers of their own spiritual inheritance, and they have also been the vilest vilifiers of their own devatas. This betrayal, this scope, span, and extent of betrayal you will see in no other communities.
Absolutely.
It's a
Self-destructive.
self-destructive. And so the real combat at recovering, at defending, at preserving, and perpetuating the Hindu civilizational and cultural continuity should be directed at such Hindu politicians instead of constantly condemning and berating Narendra Modi, calling him Maulana Modi and all that. It's very cheap. It's a very
And it
below the belt
yeah, it
attack.
reflects sheer ignorance on the scale at which he's battling.
And the forces of attacks. When the Hindu community in one locality cannot come together to rebuild one temple or defend an ancient temple, to rejuvenate it, to restore its former glory, you are talking about a civilizational scale which you neither have the uh, adequate grasp or the full knowledge of its heritage. So these are things you have to look at in a very comprehensive sense, and not at current news headlines,
Episode by episode.
episodic sense, or based on what you read or consume on YouTube and social media. I think that pretty much sums up the transformational decade of Mr. Narendra Modi, which has been nothing short of remarkable. But from an overall perspective, one full decade of Narendra Modi's prime ministership, it has undoubtedly been a force for national good, for national security, for the safety of Hindu community. He has ushered in an era in which airports and seaports compete with each other in proclaiming their credentials as to which one is more efficient and profitable. Walk into any airport, modern airport, in the that have come up in the last 10, 11 years,
70
and you
plus.
see the ranked as the number 3 best airport in the world based on blah 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 standards. This is what they are competing today.
Exactly. Healthy competition.
Right. He has also infused a spirit of daring among Indian youth. You see this every day in front of you. A whole new ecosystem, a whole new generation of startup founders, gig workers, creative people whose dreams are cemented by a personal and financial freedom. You see them walking around with a brash air and a kind of a confident swagger. You see them around every day around you. This was unthinkable 10 years ago.
Unthinkable.
So many things they've taken for granted, no? Their confidence, their swagger, their whole touching the sky is the limit. This kind of
And
attitude
knowing fully
they have.
well the state stands behind them.
Yeah, that it is possible that they can create these things. This has happened in less than a decade, sir. Above all, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been a catalyst for recovering our civilizational self-confidence, projecting our cultural heft, and he has been a unifier that Bharatavarsha, which was splintered into pieces under secularism, had been awaiting.
So, in the last hour with Sandeep, we've covered almost every dimension of the significance of transformation that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has brought about after 7 decades in post-independence in India. And for a living person to perhaps get the greatest compliment of his life would be to be compared to none other than the legendary Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. We again, from Dharma Podcast, wish Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi a very, very happy birthday. Wish him for his long, healthy and productive life. India needs him. So thank you, Sandeep, for the expansive range of dimensions we covered in the last 1 hour. So please like, share, support Dharma Podcast, and we shall continue to bring about such conversations with Sandeep Balakrishna.